Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin, Principal Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Dan Purtell. He's the founding partner and lead trial attorney at McEldrew Purtell, based in Philadelphia. And Dan is a trial attorney who has dedicated his career to defending victims of corporate wrongdoing, negligence, and abuse. Welcome, Dan.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. So, Dan, tell us how you came to the law.
I went to law school. I kind of always assumed I would end up on Wall Street, I guess, as a younger person. And I'm at this point in my life, I'm glad that I made the decision to go to law school in my late 20s. I remember having talks and meetings with people in my early career about getting a law degree and what that means, and whether or not, you made a distinct path into the law, that the training in law school and the network and the skills that you develop in law would be applicable to anything I went into. And ultimately, when I was in law school, I did fall in love with the courtroom, and here I am.
Gotcha. And when you had this discussion relating to what the law could do for you, where were some of those benefits? It was you mentioned it was from a networking standpoint, or
tactical, analytical. At that time in my career, I was actually in the mortgage industry, and it's not the proudest moment in our country's corporate history. So I kind of knew I wanted to get away from that. I did have a distinct interest in real estate, and the talks were with people that were several generations ahead of me in those fields, and kind of counseling on what I could do to advance my career, and then the added benefit of getting into the law and learning all the different subtypes and skill sets. It really sent me in a different direction.
Mm. And when we started today, prior to getting on camera, you had mentioned, the great client story. Do you want to share that with us?
There's so many, right? Our firm, unfortunately, at this point in our growth, we're dealing with tremendous death and destruction in most of our cases, right? So it's hard to really celebrate, because you just wish the events didn't happen and the people and our clients, the victims, had their lives. But one of the cases early in my career that really helped me understand that I could do this at a high level was actually for one of my best friend's mothers. And it was a case that kind of transformed my career and my confidence in my ability to do this. So that's the story I'd like to tell you about today.
Sure, let's hear it.
So it's a situation where people in my field when they hear the following, it was an unwitnessed slip and fall in a dark parking lot, and the defect was then removed, meaning that my best friend's mom came out after dinner into an unlit parking lot, and there was a small patch of black ice. She slipped, was tremendously injured, and the next morning, the owner of the restaurant washed away the not just the ice, but also the blood and any physical evidence that was on the scene. So we showed up, me and my friend, that afternoon, and all we had was his mother with a broken nose, a head injury, and what is yet to be identified as a significant shoulder injury, and a big puddle of soap in the middle of the parking lot. And one of the things about what we do as trial lawyers is they call it imposter syndrome. It's doubt. It's, as a case progresses, you're constantly confronted with obstacles. You're constantly told that it's not what you think it is or what you know it to be. It starts getting serious, and there's money on the line, and doubt creeps in. And I think that's one of the big obstacles in what we do at the higher levels in trial law on the plaintiff side. And this case was really where I learned to put those voices aside, do the work, trust the case, and move forward, because I had known this woman for 20 years, the better part of my life. And I knew that she was telling me the truth. Despite the defense saying this didn't happen, despite the weather meters saying, we couldn't find proof of a storm coming over. So we got to work. We put together a phenomenal proof set where we actually found a private weather station that demonstrated a small weather storm coming over that particular parking lot slightly before the incident. We had the one picture of the soap. So we showed that they had washed away the ice. We went out and laser imaged the parking lot to show that exactly where she said she fell was an indentation that would have collected ice. And at the end of the day, when we were discussing the case with defense attorney, they looked at us and said, "I can't believe it. You proved it." So it was one of those moments where it was kind of a crucible event where the case meant a lot to me. The person I had a personal relationship with the client. It was extremely uphill, right? The facts were stacked against us. All I knew is that I could trust the person, that she was telling me the truth. And we went and we built the case. And that the work and the quality of the work and the dedication to the client prevailed at the end of the day.
And, as time progresses, that confidence builds upon itself, which then creates more confidence.
For sure. I mean, like I said, this case was early in my career. It's probably at least 10, 15 years ago at this point. And it was that moment where I kind of learned how good I could be at this, and you got to trust your case. You got to trust your client. And then you have to, with the faith in those two elements, build that case. And never let anybody back you off your case that you know it to be. And that really has stood with me and is now, some of the guiding principles that we use at McEldrew Purtell.
Well, I'd like to thank my guest today, Dan Purtell. He is the founding partner and lead trial attorney at McEldrew Purtell in Philadelphia. Dan, can you also provide our audience with your contact information twice, please?
Sure. As mentioned, I'm a partner with McEldrew Purtell. We're a firm in Philadelphia. We practice all across the country. At this point, our practice is limited to catastrophic injury and wrongful death. Cases across the board: medical malpractice, workplace safety, trucking, commercial vehicle, nursing, toxic tort, products liability, all complex areas of the law. We have 60 teammates, 60 team members, 20 of which are lawyers. Some of the smartest people I've ever been in contact with professionally. We have just phenomenal talented people up, down, and across our team. My contact is Dan at McEldrewPurtell.com. My firm office number is 215-545-8800. And for anybody who's interested or has something they'd like to discuss, my personal cell phone is 215-527-6489.
Gotcha. This has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients, and doing a laser scan of a parking lot to determine the possibility of an indentation for where water collect that could then become, a piece of black ice. It certainly fits that definition. If you're an attorney or know one who goes above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us. 914-666-6600 number again. 914-666-6600. Dan, it was a pleasure having you today.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for what you do. I think it's great that you're magnifying what it is we do and the clients that we try to help.
Great. Thanks again, Dan.
Appreciate it.